Oh, hi there. Good evening. Tonight I wanted to talk about a subject that I hadn't even thought about, which is the Black Sea has been a topic in a few of my videos, and I hadn't quite thought about this aspect of it until Mark Felton had mentioned it, which is sea mines. In regards to the Ukraine Russian conflict. Yeah, even Soviet era ones, they still operate. Both sides are blaming each other, and it is really hard to discern, which government is knowledgeable about their arsenal of tactical, weapons, and also, you have to take into consideration that the Ukrainians were part of the Soviet Empire, whether they wanted to be or not. And when the Soviets collapsed, there were many things more potent than sea mines to consider. And the Soviets, well, they had a very bad time keeping anything locked up. And after all these years, sea mines of Soviet design from supposed Ukrainian naval bases and things like that sounds a bit far fetched. It sounds more like the Ukrainians would want to have, when they removed themselves from the Soviet Union, would want to have had nothing to do with them. They've given up their nuclear capabilities because they wanted nothing to do with that bag and all the trouble it came with. Why wouldn't they get rid of some clunky old sea mines? Now, like, you could go, well, it's more cost efficient if they kept them, but they were reportedly in such bad a shape. It's just like, what's the difference? Just dispose of them properly. And that's not very difficult to do. A sea mine can be deactivated. And I do believe that this is actually more likely a Russian tactic to cause confusion. And the West is further created more confusion by not telling the story correctly. And even Mark Felton, as knowledgeable a man as he is, he can only go on what information he has available to him, and maybe perhaps his hypotheses and that sort of thing. Without that, even the most brilliant mind is is going to be dehydrated in the desert and not likely to venture out of the desert if they have no water. And that goes for any mind. And that's part of what the Russians feel, is that if they're closed off from the rest of the world, with the exception of China, who doesn't really hold on to communist ideals, but is very anti-Western because of the decades of Westerners taking advantage of them, even centuries. They've not forgotten that, not liked it, except who really wants to be on their side? Like, seriously. Um, okay, they did make a massive imprint on history, and you know, a lot of inventions were originated from that region of the world. Um, but that doesn't mean that what they are today is a likable entity. And it doesn't mean that anybody, even so called allies, can possibly get along. In fact, the Chinese Communist Party's idea on how to conquer the world by making sure that every nation hates them, particularly ones like, oh, I don't know, India, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, Russia to an extent, the Americans, Canadians, basically everybody, the Australians, yeah, basically everybody. Doesn't really like the African nations that got shoddy road work built and things built, and they lost huge chunks of their resources or land for Chinese Communist Party interests. You can only play that game for so long before it catches up to you and you realize, whoops, everybody hates us. And the Chinese Communist Party, I'm not convinced they've clued into that fact. And it's like, well, that's a mighty swell army you got there, few million man strong, maybe even more. Except all it takes is, what's that in the sky? I don't know. Let me check in my one glasses lens, and I'll tell you what it is. Well, it looks like it's 10,000 miles away, so we're okay. Oh, wait a minute. It was an intercontinental ballistic missile fired by, I don't know, anybody, basically, because it's all the neighboring powers don't like them. And, yeah, how did we get from that point about sea mines to this? Well, it's all part of the same story, really. One big, long pain in the ass. That's all you gotta put it. It's very easy to branch off into different directions and go, well, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. And it's all relating to the same subject. That's why it's so important why the Russian-Ukraine conflict ends peacefully. Because, if there's no room for expansion of evil, then that's where the evil stops. Anyway, talk to people later. Have a good one.